Welcome to CBS Sports HQ alongside Jacqueline DeAugustino. I'm Tommy Tran. You know, it's opening day in Major League Baseball, and out in Houston, the champs start the defense of their title at Minute Maid Park. However, not far away at NRG Stadium, H-Town playing host to the men's Final Four.
Yeah, and it's certainly the Final Four that no one saw coming. Tommy, you got Miami, San Diego State, UConn, and FAU, but no matter what, one head coach is winning his first championship, so that's certainly going to be exciting to see. Here's our Chris Hassel with the Final Four preview.
It's arguably the most unlikely Final Four of all time, with 3 first-timers for the first time in over half a century, 1970 to be exact. Meanwhile, UConn will be looking for its 5th title in the last quarter century. It's 1 have and 3 have-nots, getting ready to blast off to Houston and compete for a national title. The UConn Huskies aren't universally considered one of college basketball's blue bloods, but they've been the most successful program over the last 25 years. Titles in 99, 04, 11, and 14, and now on the cusp of a 5th national title. They're the favorites after rolling every one of their tournament opponents by 15 plus. They're the haves. Now let's meet the have-nots. UConn's semifinal opponent, Miami, a football school that took that meaning to a whole new level back in 1971. When they shut down the basketball program for 14 years. But last year, Jim Larrañaga led them to their first Elite Eight in program history. This year, he's taken them one step further, upsetting the top 2 seeds in the Midwest. But the real Cinderellas are in the other semi, as Conference USA faces the Mountain West, which has its first team in the Final Four in San Diego State. Perhaps best known for producing Kawhi Leonard, the Aztecs would have likely been a #1 seed back in 2020 if not for the tournament being canceled. Several stars from that would-be contender still remain, and they're looking to make up for lost time with an imposing defense and a grinded-out way of play, a clash of styles with their opponent. The high-flying, 3-point launching Owls from Boca Raton, Florida Atlantic, a school that started playing basketball in 1988, has a chance to be the biggest pre-tournament long shot in March Madness history. They were 200-1 to start the tournament. Now 6-1 to complete one of the greatest underdog stories in sports history. FAU played in front of its largest crowds in program history this season, regularly selling out their 3,000-seat arena. This weekend in Houston, they'll be playing in front of 70,000 plus. It's the Owls, Aztecs, Canes, and Huskies to cap off one of the wildest tournaments we've ever seen. Pure madness from start to finish. And we're not done just yet.
It is a Final Four like we've never seen before, and we've got boots on the ground inside NRG Stadium. Let's send it out to Hakeem Dermish, who anchors our coverage in Houston.
Tommy, Jacqueline, thank you. Houston, we have a Final Four, not the Final Four we expected, and we are 4 wide here at the FanFest George R. Brown Convention Center in downtown Houston. Hakeem Dermish alongside CBS Sports senior writer Matt Norlander, former NBA Coach of the Year Avery Johnson, CBS Sports basketball analyst Tim Doyle here to break it all down for you as we get you set for the Final Four on Saturday. And you heard Tommy mention the Houston Astros. Their banner will be raised later tonight in downtown Houston. They're the favorites to run it back and win another World Series. UConn is the favorite to cut down the nets on Monday. And Avery, this team has dominated from start to finish. They've outscored their opponents by a combined 90 points. What are you seeing from Dan Hurley's Huskies right now?
Well, first of all, guys, it's good to be back with you again. Back to back, we're running it back.
That's right.
But when you talk about UConn, it's all about their defense. This team, 2 of their last 4 games, they've held their opponents to 55 points and under. And when you're talking about that type of defense, it travels well. They can guard the perimeter. They can guard the dribble. You can guard the first yard or 2 is what we call it. But they've out-rebounded their opponents in the tournament. If you can control the boards and limit your opponents from even getting second shots, because offensive rebounds lead to wide open threes, and Miami's going to need to get some offensive rebounds against this stout defensive team. So I'm very impressed with their defense.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they're playing the best basketball of anyone in college basketball. Right now, they're your betting favorites. and I believe rightfully so. And Adama Sanogo has just been better and better every game. He starts off against Iona, and I like Junior Joseph, their big man, and he just did whatever he wanted. He had 28 points and 13 rebounds. And then being matched up with Drew Timme, maybe he didn't shoot it great, but he had 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 dimes. They were double teaming him, and he was like, oh, this is no problem. So he's adapted his game, and he has elevated it. He's got surrounding pieces around them. Matt, this was a team that at one time was number 1 in the country, and now they're playing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this team win its PK 85 championship out in Portland back in November. That's when UConn really announced its presence on a national, at least, nationally, that it can be as good as anyone. Purdue, obviously, at that point was also really, really good. To me, it's not just Sanogo, who we announced earlier on Thursday is a third-team CBS Sports All-American. It's Sanogo, who plays about 68% of UConn's minutes, and then when he goes off the floor, there's a 7'2" monster named Donovan Clingan who's coming in. And so one of the biggest reasons why UConn is in this spot and why UConn is the comfortable favorite to win the national championship is because Sanogo is the team's best player. I talked with the staff earlier this week. It's Sanogo who's the most important guy on the floor. But when Clingan comes in, the stuff they are running, when Sanogo's on the floor versus the ball screen, look for the lobs on Clingan, and it makes them such a tough matchup. Not to say UConn is not infallible, because it is, but when you have that kind of dynamism between your starting big and Sanogo, and then the second he goes out, you're getting no relief. In many ways, Clingan can make UConn even more impressive defensively. Their per possession numbers are even more outrageous when he's on the floor, Hakeem. That's why they are such a dominant force. In addition to, by the way, having the best athlete in the Final Four, Andre Jackson, and a litany of wings who can really shoot it.
Yeah, Dan Hurley has really opened up an X factor with Andre Jackson Jr., moving him around. And my gosh, he is a jack of all trades. He can space the floor. He is a great passer, great defender. This is the first team, UConn, since 1996 Kentucky, to win the regional semi and the regional final by 20 points. What did the 1996 Kentucky team do? What did they do?
They steamrolled to a national championship.
There you go.
One of the most dominant teams we've ever seen.
There you go. And standing in the way of UConn is Jim Larrañaga and Miami. And this Miami team is incredible, led by this 3-pack of guards coach. You got Nigel Pack, the K-State transfer. You got Isaiah Wong, the ACC player of the year. You got Jordan Miller, who's just coming off a 27-point game, perfect from the floor, perfect from the free throw line. How do they knock out UConn?
I think the main thing is they got to get in the bonus offensively first. And put pressure on this UConn's defense. UConn, we talked about Sanogo. He fouled out of 2 games this year. He's got over 100 fouls. With the way Miami can shoot the free throw, it's incredible. I mean, with 4 guys or so, that's over 80% from the free throw line. They have to get that ball in the paint, get UConn into foul trouble, make their free throws, because they're really dependent on their starters. This team is not very deep. Over the last 2 games, their bench has scored, 5 points and 7 points off the bench? So they're not really a deep team, so they rely on their starters a lot. But they have guys that can make plays, but the best route to the final game, you got to get UConn in foul trouble, get to that free throw line, control the tempo of the game.
And Tim, this was interesting what Jim Larrañaga said before coming to Houston, and he says Houston, like my grandma says it's Houston, but he says Houston, and he's 73 years old, and that's okay. You can say Houston. It bothered me because I say Houston, and that's the correct way to say it. But he had said that if they had only 1 day to prepare for UConn, they'd be in trouble. They have multiple days. Does it matter? Do you think it's really going to matter having this extra time for Jim Larrañaga and his staff to prepare for them?
I mean, you trust Jim Larrañaga,
I do.
He's allowed to just back out of the driveway whenever he wants. Now he's at that age that he don't even have to look behind him at his mirrors. Right? That you're mean, Hakeem. You're really.
I love Jim Larrañaga. That's my guy from George Mason.
Mean person. Okay.
It's Houston, not Houston.
My opinion is there's only one team here in Houston that can beat UConn, and it's Miami. No disrespect. Whenever you say that, you always disrespect the team. FAU and San Diego State, I don't think they could beat UConn, but I think Miami can. And what I love about Miami is they have spread the wealth on who has been the guy. Wong was the guy against Indiana. He had 27 points. Oh, Jordan Miller, did you watch him last game? He pulled the Christian Laettner. He didn't miss a shot. That's what Laettner did against Kentucky in that amazing game. He went 10 of 10 from the field, 10 of 10 from the line. Miller went 13 of 13 from the free throw line and 7 of 7 from the field. And then Nigel Pack had his moment as well against Houston. That's the win, Matt, that really stands out to me. I thought thought Houston was the best team in college basketball. I thought Houston had this great defense. Go back and watch that tape. Miami had 1 turnover in this first half. They shot 50% from the field. They scored almost 90 points. Where's that great defense? Because this offense is legit, and this team has a ton of firepower.
If Miami's going to beat UConn, 2 things that come to mind to me. One, it's Jim Larinaga is the only coach that has experience. He's been here before. Granted, it was 17 years ago with a different kind of team, but I've talked to him about that. And the stage, it's very, very big. And to get adjusted to playing in a building as large as NRG Stadium, you're not going to really have a feel for that until a few minutes into the game. But he can at least prepare his team for the logistics of all this weekend. None of the other coaches can. And then Miami has to shoot well, and I think shoot often from three-point range, because it's got guys in Wong, in Pack, in Wooga Poplar who have NBA level and distance in their range. And I think if Miami is going to be able to keep up with UConn, it's all on the offensive end. Defensively, they're going to have to show up. It's a weak defensive team, but I think you want to get this into a race where it's, to 75, to 80, to 85. I think that is Miami's best chance, and its best shooters have to show up like that. All those guys are shooting 35% or better from the field, and technically, even though the margins are narrow, Hakeem, Miami is the best three-point shooting team in this Final Four.
Jim Larinaga has constructed this roster thanks to NIL and thanks to the transfer portal, and he's playing by the rules.
This is how he constructed his roster.
Well, he's playing by the rules. He's playing by the rules.
What's in this bag?
I love. There's like candy in there. There's no money in there. I checked. There's like some mints or something.
He's
like
playing
that.
by the rules. That's
He's
right.
playing by the rules, and he said, "Look, don't pick us. We like the underdog role. His players don't care. Don't pick us." So and. I don't know that anybody is picking Miami, because I'm not picking Miami. I got UConn in this game. Nobody picked FAU to be here. 250-1 on February 1st to win the national championship. Can they win a national championship? Sure. They play up pace. They're up tempo. They shoot the three. They're a really good team. When you look at FAU, Coach, Dusty May, 35 wins. They got Vlad Golden in the middle. They got Elijah Martin. They got John L. Davis. They got Michael Forrest, who was clutch at the end of that game, hitting free throws. I mean, this is a team that nobody expected to be here. I'm still sitting here going, how? How did it happen?
Well, I called 2 of their games in the Conference USA tournament, the semifinals and the finals. I had dinner with Brian White, their AD, after the game, and I specifically told him that I was really impressed with their team. Now, I didn't think they were going to be Final Four quality, but I thought they could win a game or two in the NCAA tournament. They returned 8 of their 9 players from last year, great continuity, but I love the combination of these 2 big guys inside. When you're looking at Golden and Rosado, they play differently. Golden is more of a pick-and-roll lob guy, similar to Coke Brenner, from Creighton, but Rosado, he's more of a passer, 0.5 Boris Diaw type of a player. But I think the combination of those 2 big guys inside, and then when you're talking about my favorite player, Elijah Martin, on this team, he's got calves bigger than any football player. Trust me, this guy can get it going. He had some monster dunks in the Conference USA tournament. He's played well overall in the NCAA tournament. John L. Davis is going to have to make shots in what I call 9-1-1 situations inside of that 7-second or 5-second mark on the shot clock. So I love FAU. It's a tough uphill climb. I know we're going to get into San Diego State in a minute, but they got to really have a balance of a good inside-out game.
Yeah, and keep attacking. Don't just settle. They've only shot 31% from 3 as a team. Now, they've made 8 or more threes in every game, and we've seen some teams kind of succumb in the NCAA tournament by not making any threes. So they've made enough threes, but against San Diego State, that pressure, if you start going east and west, you're done. Like, if you're John L. Davis, you got to keep getting into the lane. You got to keep getting paint touches, whether off the bounce or getting the ball down low. They need to believe, Matt, like, you were there in person. They need to believe they belong here. 3 of their 4 wins I have deemed dramatic, knocking off a 16 seed. Maybe should have not even won the Memphis game. And then against Kansas State, when the whole world fell in love with Marquise Noel, they beat them as well. So they've had some really big moments. They need to believe they belong.
I think they do believe they belong. Yes, I saw this team win in Madison Square Garden to get to the Final Four. And because they go 9 deep, see, their experience is going to come up huge in this spot. Now, you can't prepare for this stage, the massiveness of this. I talked to Dusty May, FAU's coach, earlier this week as he was preparing, and he knows that there are a lot of elements about this that he needs to brace his team for. He said he has been he's been talking with Kansas coach Bill Self, who just won a national title a year ago. Another guy that has been counseling Dusty May this week, he told me, one Brad Stevens, who is familiar with taking a Cinderella team to a Final Four stage and a national championship game stage. I think FAU's depth is going to be the biggest factor in it having a chance not just to get to the title game, but winning the whole thing, because there is not, like, they don't have fake depth. It's not like, well, we're 5, 6, 7 deep, we play guys 8, 9. No, 1 through 9 on this roster are capable, and they can have any guy on any given night show up, which makes them, from a scouting perspective, Hakeem, all that much more difficult to prepare for, because if you have, Elijah Martin, Nick Boyd, Janelle Davis, if you got them all highlighted as the guys to stop, well, we saw what Vlad Golden's capable of doing, and he's going to have a good matchup with Nathan Mensah of SDSU.
And I think it was critical and important after they beat Tennessee. You see Dusty May stand up in the locker room and he goes, 3 more. And I go, this is cute. Like, what do you mean 3 more? You think you're going to win 3 more
you're
games?
Believing now. You're believing.
You think you're going to win 3 more games, and then he goes out and beats K-State, which was my adopted team in the tournament.
They're not winning the national championship. You said they have a chance. They have no chance.
Well, I'm just saying he made his kids believe. That's what I'm talking about.
But we got to also remember, if FAU, if they weren't in Conference USA, they probably would have had a better seeding coming into it.
We talked about it on Selection Sunday. I mean, they're more like a 5 or a 6.
And I know we're moving to San Diego State. Just a reminder, they're 35-3. Okay?
I know.
They're already
They lost
guaranteed
3
to have more
games.
wins this season than any team in the sport, and they have metrically rated well. They rate higher at KenPom than Miami. They're the 3rd best team per predictive metrics in the Final Four.
You're looking at me like you don't. It's not going to happen.
I'm not buying that they're cutting down the nuts on Monday.
That's fine. They are 29-0 when they out-rebound their opponents this season, including the 4 games in the tournament. 29-0. 29-0. I mean, there's no losses there. They only lost 3 games all season long. They're going up a team that wins with defense. They will slow you down. They will slog you down. They will play games in the 50s or 60s. They don't care. 22-0 when they hold their opponents to 65 points or fewer. San Diego State. Winning with defense, Tim. I mean, you love this team because they're built with culture, and they win with defense. They're tough and they're hard-nosed.
Yeah, they have guys that actually played high school ball against Avery. I mean, they have old men, and that really means to me they got synergy. They got chemistry. They know where they're supposed to be on the floor, not just from an offensive position, coach, but from a defensive position. And obviously they have an identity. When I did their games this year, Brian Dutcher just hangs out at shoot-around. He just wants to talk about this team's culture, that everyone understands their identity. What surprised me about them, coach, was they only have one guy who averages double figures, and that's Matt Bradley. One guy. That's it. One guy. Now, he played great against Charleston. A lot of people were picking Charleston. I didn't, because I knew the defense was going to take care of itself. But look at those Sweet 16 numbers. They've been poor, to say they've been bad. He's scored over 2,000 points, and he normally is that guy at the end of the shot clock that's making plays. If they're going to have any success, forget about winning a national championship. If they're going to beat FAU, that lefty better start playing a little bit better at a higher level.
1,000% agree with you. And I had San Diego State 3 times this year. And first of all, before I get to Matt Bradley, congratulations to Coach Brian Dutcher. He's an outstanding coach. Obviously, he was there with Coach Fisher at Michigan for a long time assistant at San Diego State. He's done an amazing job. We talked about Coach Larry Nager, but this guy's got a tremendous amount of experience both as an assistant and a head coach. But Matt Bradley, he's 1 for 10 from 3 in the tournament. He's got to play a lot better, as what my buddy Tim Doyle said. But he's got to do it from the inside out. With his body, he's a physical player, physical specimen. He can't play from the 3-point line in. He's got to get downhill, get some easy baskets, try to get to the free throw line early in this game.
Would you draw up something
to start the game? I'm ducking him in. I'm drawing up something early to get him a paint touch. The same way they do with Jaden Ledee when he comes off the bench. And he's a kid that I recruited because he's from Kincaid High School here in Houston. And I recruited him before he went to Ohio State and TCU. So the same way they treat Ledee when he comes off the bench, they got to start off the game with a post-up for Matt Bradley. Get him a paint touch and an easy one to start this game.
The interesting thing about the SDSU Florida Atlantic matchup, both teams, I think they're combined 19-2 in games decided by 5 points or fewer. Both very comfortable and playing close. But Hakeem mentioned off the top, SDSU has not lost when it has held opponents to 65 points or fewer. That is the objective here. We'll see if they can do it Also, another subplot to this game, San Diego State has the second best three-point defense in the country.
Yep.
The best three-point defense in the country already got knocked out by FAU. That was Tennessee, and they survived that one. They doing that. I think that psychologically helps FAU. But if SDSU can shut them down from three-point range, it is a big, big key to getting to Monday night.
They are holding teams to 17% from deep. That's best in tourney history. 17%. They say defense wins championships. Perhaps San Diego State, who Tim likes to cut down the nets on Monday, will be the ones to have their one shining moment here in Houston. And you can watch all of it go down on CBS, Paramount Plus, and the March Madness Live app. First national semifinal, FAU San Diego State, 6:09 Eastern Time, followed by the second national semifinal, Miami and UConn, 8:49 Eastern. CBS, streaming live on Paramount Plus and on the March Madness Live app. Tommy, let's send it back to you in Fort Lauderdale, where I know you guys love some FAU, but man, I love UConn to cut down another national championship and cut down the nets on Monday night, a fifth.
Yeah, that's Mr. Hassel with FAU calling their games. It's really a South Florida. By the way, they are short a starting five, you guys. So if you want to fill in that gap, Jacqueline and I are prepared to jump into Houston.
Yeah, we can stretch it out. We'll be ready to go.
Ion College Basketball Podcast. Matt Norlander, Gary Parrish with Chip Patterson at times. Cal Boone at times. Check them out ahead of national semifinal on Saturday. And, of course, the men's national championship Monday night.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.